Good evening. This is Chair Judge Brian Haggerty calling the meeting to order for the monthly meeting for the El Paso Community College Board of Trustees. I'd like to notify the public that this is a remote meeting and ask for their patience as we adjust to this type of setting. We apologize in advance for any technical problems we may encounter. If you plan to record the meeting, notify all participants at the beginning of the meeting. Please remember and acknowledge that there are remote participants. If applicable, reach out to them periodically to see if they have a question or something to contribute. Okay, so Pamela, go ahead and poll the board to see who's on.
Yes, sir. Mr. Uxer.
Here.
Ms. Sanchez.
Here.
Mrs. Robles.
Here.
Ms. Nahida.
Here.
Ms. Pena.
Here.
Dr. Graham. Here. Mr. Haggerty.
Here. 1.4.
Item 1, approval of minutes, January 29th, 2020, February 26th, 2020.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
This is Carmen Graham. I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
This is Bonnie Nájera. I'll make a second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles. Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Nahida.
Aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. Yeah, I'd like to welcome everybody that is listening in on this podcast for our monthly meeting. 26.
At this time, I have not received any open forum requests, Judge.
1.7.
Item 1.7, optional written report submitted by the President of the Classified Staff Association, the Professional Staff Association, the Faculty Association, and the Student Government Association will be read at this time. I've received 2 reports. The first report is from Laura Gaither, who is President of the Classified Staff Association. She says, on behalf of the Classified Staff Association, I want to take a moment to thank the Board of Trustees, the administration, and Dr. Sarata for your support throughout this difficult time. It's comforting to know that our full-time and part-time employees will not be wondering how to get through this time without a paycheck. As we follow city and state guidelines of staying home and staying safe, I would like to say that your continued support and encouragement are appreciated. Moving forward, I hope that we can keep our staff at ease, knowing they have a job to come back to once this is over. Thank you so much for your time and continued support. And our second report is from Rebecca Bell, President of the EPCC Faculty Senate. Ms. Bell says, there is a cliche that states it takes a village. In the past several weeks, I have often reflected on this statement as I have found it applies to the current activities of my organization. The activity updates of the Faculty Association are related to the virtual conversion of our operations. To say that the conversion was massive would be an understatement. With few exceptions, i.e. the law enforcement classes and nail technology, the faculty worked to convert all spring face-to-face classes to a virtual modality in a matter of days. This required both through our resources and a collection of ad hoc volunteers who stepped in to assist their cohort. Disciplines shared master courses and content both within their discipline and across the district. An outpouring of content and resources was sent to me for sharing with all faculty, and together we were ready to begin instruction in a new modality at an unprecedented scale within a 2-week time frame. Truly, it took a village. Part of that village has been the incredible outpouring of support and collaboration by the administration. We appreciate being included in cabinet conferences and being consulted on decisions such as the pass-fail grade conversation. Specifically, we want to express thanks for the support of the Vice President of Instruction and Workforce Education. He and his team have been outstanding in answering questions. In this time of great uncertainty, our leadership's transparency and inclusion has brought stability. As a member of a state faculty association, I know that has not been the COVID-19 complications, and we are deeply appreciative of all of Cabinet's time and intentionality in assisting faculty through this time. In addition to our classroom efforts, the Faculty Association has worked to convert our institutional assignments into virtual environments. This week, I was notified that standing committees resumed their work, and as of last week, both the Faculty Senate and the Association have been able to successfully meet in a virtual environment. Other aspects, such as curriculum assessment, have been able to resume. I share this to show that not only has the Association worked to provide online content, but we have also worked to reconstruct our ecosystem. In our new modality, we are able to continue a large portion of our work and move forward with many of our systems even while we work remotely. Truly, as that process continues, it remains bumpy at times. We anticipate encountering unforeseen challenges as we navigate uncharted waters. But I am confident in this that we will continue to evolve and deliver not only our service to our students, but also the institution as a whole. Because in this time, I have learned the true meaning of the old adage. The Faculty Association is a community that approaches problems as a village. In that mode, we'll continue to work to assure that our students receive the highest quality instruction and that we continue in our overall service to the institution. That completes the report.
All right. 1.8.
Item 1.8, communications, none.
1.9.
Item 1.9, Board of Trustees business. Item 1.9.1, discussion and take possible action regarding the case entitled Martha Quinones versus El Paso County Community College District and Hector Ariola in the 448th Judicial District Court of El Paso County, Texas, cause number 2018 BCV 217.
Make a motion to move this after executive session.
Second, this is Carmen Graham.
Any discussions? Pull the board.
Mr. Uxer. Mr. Uxer. Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Nájera.
Aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Now go back to Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 1.9.2, discussion and take possible action regarding the internal affairs investigation and/or suspension of Officer Brandon LaPointe, EPCC Police Department.
Make a motion that we discuss this after executive session.
Second, this is Carmen Graham.
Any discussion? All the members, please.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Nájera.
Aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 1.10, board reports. Item 1.10.1, Treasurer's Report, February 29th, 2020. No action is necessary. Item 1.10.2, President's Report. Item 1.10.2.1, Dr. William Sarata, College President, will update the Board of Trustees and audience on recent events that have transpired at the college to include an update on the COVID-19 pandemic and appropriate actions taken.
Chair Haggerty and members of the board, it is always a privilege to report to you on the activities at the institution. I have a rather robust report. This covers the period since our last board meeting, which was March the 27th. I am happy to forward this report. Pam and I will forward this report to the full board so that you will have it in written format as well. First, let me begin by taking a moment to congratulate our dedicated faculty and staff who have made a remarkable transformation to online instruction. The decision to move online was not made lightly, and we realized that we have faculty mid-semester to transition to a whole new way of teaching for many of them. In an unprecedented effort, over 750 faculty attended Blackboard boot camps the week after spring break. The following week, more than 240 attended more focused training on Blackboard. Many more also buddied up with colleagues as a mentor or mentee. The efforts demonstrate the incredible dedication they have for our students and the passion that the faculty have for the critical work that they are doing for the institution. Collectively, almost 3,500 face-to-face sections transitioned to an online format. I want to take a moment to recognize them all that they have accomplished. Because of them, our students have been able to continue their semester and not lose momentum on their educational pathway. In addition to our amazing faculty, others in the Instruction and Workforce Division have been working hard to virtualize their services. Counseling, advising, library, tutoring, Blackboard, and other virtual services are now available to our students and will continue to expand as we move forward. Thank you for all the creativity, flexibility, and efforts towards our mission and top priority of ensuring student success. We started with our faculty and shifted all those courses. In addition, I can't thank all of Student Services for the effort that they have made in that shift. All of this supported by information technology. Communications has really moved forward virtually. You're seeing communications on all of the different social media platforms. So AVP Mo and her staff, can't thank them enough. In addition to transitioning, part of what we had to determine was essential and non-essential functions at the institution, as well as employees. As we shifted, we also shifted some of the job descriptions to include, and we kicked off a new calling campaign this past Monday, April 13th. We received applications from over 150 El Paso Community College full and part-time staff willing to join this effort and participate by calling students. Their role has been instrumental in reaching out to our students to ensure they are successful in transitioning to online courses this spring, and we also made the decision to convert all of the summer session into an online format, and they're also facilitating the registration process for these students. Students are contacted via phone and email and connected to live online support and advising. Efforts to promote ongoing summer registration via Facebook and all EPCC media outlets are being coordinated through the marketing department. To date, we have reached out to more than 500 students and counting. The ultimate goal is to reach nearly 5,000 students currently registered this spring semester. The campaign is ongoing through April 24th and will extend if necessary until we reach out to each and every single student. At the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, El Paso Community College math professor Fan Chen understood that the lack of personal protective equipment was a challenge that healthcare institutions were facing during their response to the pandemic and wanted to do her part to help institutions meet the challenge. Professor Chen, being the problem solver that she is, worked diligently during spring break along with Mr. Hector Lugo from UTEP's GAIA Makerspace to research 3D printable masks that could assist the El Paso healthcare community in their response to the pandemic. She, Mr. Lugo, and Susan Barnum then formed a team known as El Paso Aid that would focus on 3D printing a mask known as the Montana mask. to aid local healthcare clinics and hospitals with meeting their PPE shortage. El Paso Aid consists of 16 members, Professor Chen, Mr. Lugo, Calvert Boyle, EPC, who serves as EPCC Makerspace Coordinator, Philip Morton, who's the STEM Grow PBL tutor, Susan Barnum, and a new member who wishes to remain anonymous. The team has produced over 500 masks and is printing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to assist with the critical shortage of PPE. El Paso Aid has received requests from 63 individuals and organizations for 835 masks as of April 14th. The team has been able to do this great work because of the support of both the university and college, Department of Education, STEM Grow Grant Partnership, EPCC's Makerspace, which is coming soon, EPC's Division of Instruction and Workforce Education, and UTEP's GAIA Makerspace. Although this is excellent work, the team is not stopping here. They have started working on 2 additional pieces of PPE that are in high demand, printing and producing face shields and ear savers. Finally, the team is always happy to include more partners and encourage any interested individuals or institutions to contact their team. Professor Chen's email is fchen@epcc.edu, and you can follow her on Twitter or reach out and direct message her on Twitter. It is @fan, F-A-N, Chen, C-H-E-N, 2007. I follow Professor Chen on Twitter. I don't believe that Professor Chen has slept during this entire period, as I see that in addition to producing PPE, she is volunteering and taking meals to healthcare workers. She's taking meals to first responders, both police department, paramedics, et cetera. Just an amazing faculty member that we're blessed to have at the institution. I'd like to continue, Chair Haggerty and members of the board. There was only one approved purchase that went beyond $50,000. And when the board passed a resolution on the 27th, the directive was that I report to the board at the next regular board meeting any actions that needed to be reported to the board. That approval was for 100 laptop computers for Dr. Hinon and her team in information technology for district-wide use. The amount was $79,000. The vendor was a local vendor, Decision Tree, and the items were bought that were Dell Inspiron 3583 Core i7 laptops, and the contract vehicle was the Region 19 Cooperative. We are using those for distribution to faculty members, to staff members, and we are checking some out to students as well. We postponed spring commencement. We were scheduled for commencement on Friday, May the 15th. We have postponed spring commencement. We continue to work with our partners for a viable date as pandemic stay-home orders are lifted. We will announce that once we are able to. During the last 2.5 weeks, I have participated in 40 virtual meetings, including 3 American Association of Community College and Association of Community College Trustee executive meetings covering topics with regional accreditors. Dr. Whelan was one of the panelists who provided context and guidance to institutions on online instruction, on pass-fail options. In addition, we've had discussions on the federal stimulus package. We have met with Justin Drager and Karen McCarthy for the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. We have begun to formulate 4 components of what we believe will be the 4th stimulus package, a CARES Act Part 2, if you will. We received an update from the Labor Department on what we're working on and how the community college sector needs to be prepared to assist as we come out of this recession. I want to highlight a couple of items with regards to the Stimulus 4.0 that we are advocating. The first piece is institution and student support to cope with the pandemic. There is a request of $10 billion, which is roughly 1/6 of current revenues for institutions. Overall, we are seeking a $46.6 billion addition into Stimulus 4 legislation, provided through the formula that's contained in the CARES Act. So in the CARES Act, institutions received just about $14 billion. So we're requesting another increase of $46.6 billion. The second item is workforce development funding for a TACCCT successor program. The sector supports a program modeled after the highly successful Trade Adjustment Assistance Community College and Career Training Program, such as Strengthening Community Colleges Training Program. An initial investment of $1 billion per year for at least 2 years would sustain a vital workforce education program connected tightly to business. The third is direct student aid. We are advocating that the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, SEOG, be funded at $5 billion for additional student support. We ask that a waiver on the instructional share of that grant be granted, and that funds be distributed to institutions who have received an SEOG allocation in the previous fiscal year. We're asking for relief for stressed student borrowers. We're asking that Congress look for ways to support those struggling borrowers by providing additional relief, including potential student loan forgiveness. We're looking at temporarily enhancing the higher education tax credits for funding opportunities. The American Opportunity Tax Credit, AOTC, should be increased from $2,500 to $3,000, and its refundability should be increased from 40% to 60%. In addition, we have covered topics on international student issues. Processing visas have become quite the challenge for international students. It affects some community colleges more than others. We have reviewed the top 10 legal issues that community colleges are facing during this pandemic, and I speak to the first two. The first is the basic delivery of online education. The critical importance of accessibility, and we are finding the digital divide is real, and ensuring that students have access. We applaud vendors such as T-Mobile and others, AT&T, that are providing free internet access to students during this unprecedented time. Disability services are also one of the delivery of online services that must be explored, and we continue to explore. And the second major legal issue that institutions are facing are employment matters, essential versus non-essential employees, and the potential of layoffs and furloughs as this pandemic continues. I participated in Federal Reserve Board meetings where we have reviewed the landscape. The current estimation is that unemployment is currently at 13.5%, and it is expected to peak at 15%. There's several of us that are on the Fed board that believe that the peak will actually be higher than that, as some are delaying furloughs. 10 Texas Association of Community College conference calls at the state level, during which we explore topics and have come to resolution on the Texas Success Initiative assessment. There is no testing that is occurring right now, and so we have worked diligently with the Deputy Commissioner as well as the Commissioner of Higher Ed to develop resolution, and we're happy to say that it has been posted on the coordinating board's frequently asked questions, and we have come to a resolution. We are still working on bacterial meningitis. Students that enroll must have the bacterial meningitis booster vaccine, and we are asking for waivers given the fact that most institutions, if not all, have converted summer to online. We're looking at budget implications. We reviewed the legislative budget board, the LBB survey, for all institutions, and provided guidance on the kinds of expenditures and loss of revenue that should be included. For context, El Paso Community College reported approximately $720,000 of expenditures, and currently $2.85 million of lost revenue, based on enrollment declines as well as fees such as the distance learning fee that we are waiving for summer students. Guidance on the pass-fail option for students, and I will report to the board that Ms. Bell, President Bell, and the Faculty Association voted nearly unanimously to continue with our traditional grading process. We will not be a pass-fail institution for this term. Dealing with dual credit students, Dr. Graham, I know that you have significant number of dual credit students at Socorro Independent School District, and the college as a whole has been reaching out and working with our partner at the school district to ensure that those courses continue. I know that you've received feedback on the rigor of the courses, and we will continue to work. Our faculty have done a tremendous job to work with our students, but the rigor of our programs will continue to be high. We've also worked on CARES Act funding. The third stimulus bill, which indicated the El Paso Community College will receive approximately $16.6 million from the federal government. Half of that, approximately $8.3 million, will be allocated directly to students. We have received context that the funds must be expended by September 30th, 2021. And when we download the funds, we have 12 months. So we are working as a cabinet as well as with TAC, the state organization, to ensure the strategy and the strategic utilization of those funds to help as many students as possible in facilitating their success. In addition, the cabinet has met. We invite President Bell to join. We invite Dr. Peña and his staff in human resources to join, and we have been joined on numerous occasions by legal counsel on our cabinet meetings. We are focused on ensuring the operation of the college and transitioning to a complete online delivery with noted exceptions. We cannot completely transfer career and technology courses, the lab portions, and continuing ed courses onto online. So we continue to monitor the situation. We can front load the online lecture portion of those courses, but once the labs come due, so to speak, then we will have to look at how we're able to facilitate those. They have to be in person. So until the county and city, which extended the stay-home order through May 17th, release that or lift that, we will have to work with those courses, currently looking at providing those students incomplete and making up the lab portion of those courses during the summer term or when the stay-home order is lifted. In addition, as I noted with the calling campaign, we are transitioning non-essential positions to assist with two specific calling campaigns. One that is focused on high school students that would have been part of the College Bound initiative this spring, where we were partnering with 32 high schools. So we're trying to reach approximately 4,000 students in that campaign, and one with currently enrolled students that have not yet enrolled for summer and or fall. That campaign is 5,000 students. That is being led by Dr. Gonzalez. Angelica Sano from our office is coordinating it from our perspective. They hit the ground running, as you heard. They've already reached out to over 500 students, and they continue to move forward. In addition, I've been privy to be a part of 5 different phone calls with the Commissioner of Higher Education, as well as the Deputy Commissioner, in an effort to resolve and facilitate pending issues that will have dramatic impacts on the college. TSI, Texas Success Initiative, was one. The base year is another that we're continuing to work on. We are in the midst of a base year. A base year is a year that we are funded on. And so this is a snapshot of our funding beginning with the second mini-semester of the spring through the summer, the fall, and next spring. And that will determine our funding through 2023. It'll go forward in the 2021 legislative session, and through August of 2023 would impact our funding. We have expressed our concerns to the Commissioner of Higher Ed about this base year, given that most institutions, the number that we continue to hear is that most institutions are approximately 30% down in enrollment. That squares with where we are for summer. We're approximately 30% down enrollment for summer from base year to base year. We are down for the fall. It is too early to predict where the fall will end up, and we're working diligently to impact both summer and fall. But our concerns are large, and we have shared that with the Commissioner of Higher Ed. He understands our concerns and is looking at forming a work group to potentially look at different formulas or establishing a different base year. I cannot thank the Board of Trustees enough for the support, the leadership, and the vision And quite frankly, the expectation from me and the team that we do all that we can to continue the operations of the institution, beginning first and foremost with our students and facilitating their education. And we thank the board for, again, for all of the efforts to ensure that the college continue. That completes my report, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Strauss. Does any of the board have any questions for Dr. Strauss?
This is Carmen Grant. I don't have a question. I'd just like to thank the staff for the awesome job that has been done on behalf of our students. I know that it's put a huge challenge on the faculty and everyone at the college, the administration, but I think that you've done an outstanding job, and I applaud your efforts to continue engaging our students and certainly working with them as best as we can, minimizing the stress that we place upon them and their families at these challenging times. With that said, thank you, Dr. Serrata, for being so involved with all these meetings. I was able to hear a couple of the speakers that during the conference, and also Dr. Julian and her information, but it looks like you're on top of your game as usual. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graham, and tribute to the cabinet, to the faculty, to the staff, to the administrators of the institution. They are working diligently, but we certainly appreciate and the support of the board.
Dr. Strata, this is Christina Sanchez. The one question that I do have is in terms of the CARES Act, do you all know, I know that you gave out the numbers right now, but have you heard affirmatively in terms of what that allocation is going to definitively be for the community college? And do you know or have a timeline in which you will get a sense of what is coming to our community college?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for the question. Great question. We have received word from the final allocation that was distributed by Secretary DeVos, and it actually ended up being about $2,000 more than the initial estimation that we had received from the American Association of Community Colleges and from the American Council of Education. The college is set to receive $16.6 million. Of that $16.6 million, 50%, or approximately 8.3, the exact number I believe is $8,295,000 that must go directly to students. And so what we're looking at, Ms. Sanchez, I know that sounds like an extraordinary amount of money. It is approximately 5% of our budget. And so for context, we cannot utilize any of those resources for past expenditures.
Right.
They are for expenditures going forward. The student portion, they just released, and we are now eligible to download or to the electronic transfer of those funds. We have until September 30th, 2021 to utilize those resources. However, there's also stipulation that once you receive those resources, you have 12 months. So if we were to receive them now, then we would have until April of 2021 to utilize them. And so what we're doing now is we continue, and we're receiving guidance from the Texas Association of Community Colleges and from our peers, as well as from AACC, on the best utilization of the resources and questions that are still pending. For example, questions on the utilization of these resources for tuition. We have received word that we can use them. We're waiting to see that in writing. We know that they can be used for technology. We know that they can be used for healthcare. We know that those funds to students can be used for child care. And so what we want to ensure is that we utilize those resources and distribute those resources to students in the most effective and efficient manner.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Strata. And in addition to the CARES Act, on the state level, have you heard, or what is in the works in terms of any funding or resources, or what the plan is to provide this funding or shortfall for any of the community college? And I don't know if those conversations have already taken place, or whether these are discussions that I guess are being prepped for the next legislative session. If you can shed some light from the state end on what that is looking like.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. A great question. Well, as part of the CARES Act, governors were allocated, so all 50 governors were allocated a total of $3 billion that was specific for education, both K through 12, as well as higher education. The Texas portion, Governor Abbott received $295.3 million. That portion, we are advocating, and again, through the Commissioner of Higher Education, through Commissioner Keller, we are advocating that much of those resources be utilized for higher education. There is a stabilization process for independent school districts on the funding that they receive. It's much more volatile for higher education, in particular for community colleges. So if we see a loss in enrollment, that impacts us for 2 of our 3 revenue streams. It impacts us for tuition, direct tuition and fees, but it also impacts us for state appropriations, as this is part of the base here. And then the third stream of taxes, and Ms. Sanchez, you in particular, as in your role at the county, I would imagine, based on what I've seen from the city, that the county is in a similar situation where revenue is down, and as a result, they are looking at potential furloughs as well. So taxes are our third revenue stream. We did receive word from the Attorney General that this is not considered a natural disaster that is impacting the value of property, and therefore they are not eligible to indicate or claim that this is a natural disaster in terms of collection of property taxes. However, there is a legislative session that will begin in January, and I would anticipate that the same senator who requested the Attorney General opinion would turn around and look at filing legislation that will either freeze taxes or potentially lower taxes based on the disaster, the pandemic disaster. So we continue to move forward in trying to advocate with the governor on the utilization of those $295 million. Again, as I indicated, we are desperately advocating to the federal government on the next stimulus, the 4th stimulus package, to increase the amount that was allocated to higher ed. It was approximately $30.5 billion in the first CARES Act. In the 4th stimulus package, we are looking at about $46 billion.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Serrata. And I think, and really what my questions were geared toward is to, and I'm sure a lot of the folks that are listening and people that are there at the meeting would understand that it's going to be a very bleak, if you will. I mean, I hate to be an alarmist, but quite frankly, where we are is in an alarming rate. I think what I heard is that we already are in a recession, and I think where we need to be mindful of as a board, and these are just my comments and opinions, is to understand what this means fiscally. And I know we have had already a couple of budget discussions, but we will continue to have that, and I think we will need to have that with the lens and looking through the lens of it being a very um, tight and frugal year. We heard from the city on Monday, if folks were watching the news, that they have experienced a shortfall. I think the action that they took was cutting salaries of their staff. At the county level, those discussions will happen on Monday. Again, looking at where the revenues are falling and what that means in terms of quite frankly, contracts or agreements or um, actions that would have been taken maybe if we had not been under this crisis, looking at it through a different lens and where we are. And I know from my perspective, and I'm only speaking for myself, I'm really looking at that as we go forward, um, to try to be mindful of that, and where we can. And again, this is my perspective only. Um, where we can and where we can determine that we put the brakes on certain things for right now, is where we need to be at. And if that means, not approving certain contracts that we normally would have, if that would have been putting in a hiring freeze where otherwise we would not have, I think that unfortunately that is where we're at, and we just have to be mindful of that. It is uncomfortable. It is not an easy decision to make for anybody, but I think we need to as a board look at that through that lens. And so I just wanted to make those comments out there because I know right now we are at home. We are trying to abide by these orders. We're trying to keep safe and healthy, and ensure our family members and our friends are also safe and healthy. But the next wave of conversations are going to be what this budget and what this fiscal and what this economic impact is going to be, not only for the nation, for our state, but for our community as well. And we are not isolated from that. And we just need to start looking at where we are as a college through that lens as we move forward. And so those are my comments on that. And those were why my questions were geared in that regards. Nothing is assured. And so I hope we can be mindful of that as we go forward, um, and consider certain items that are on the board's agenda. And also, quite frankly, a message to not only to you, Dr. Strata, but also to maybe faculty, staff, and administration that are considering and reviewing their own projects to look at this in a global perspective and to understand where we are as a community, where we are for our college, and where we are for the students. This impacts us in a lot of different ways. And so where we might say that for a particular program or for a particular student curriculum, we have to look at that holistically in terms of where our students are, in terms of the jobs that they're probably having, and where this community is going. And so I hope that that does not get lost in these conversations, that we're not looking, as a department head, as a faculty member, as a staff member, as an administrator in a silo, but looking at this from a bigger perspective and not losing sight of that, because whether or not it impacts it right away, whether or not this affects somebody today, tomorrow, for the rest of this single semester, it's going to affect us for a long time. And so I just wanted to make that statement. And if anybody is listening that is out there, to at least keep an open mind on that. I feel that for myself, again, that is where my mind is, and I'm trying to make decisions on the best possible way that I can. But that is where, unfortunately, that I'm going to have to go with my decisions moving forward with it. And so I just put that out there for everybody to consider. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Action item 1.11, consent docket, is the next item, which includes items 3.2 and 8.1.
Move to approve.
Second, this is Carmen Grant.
Any discussion on the consent docket? Call for.
Mr. Uxer. Mr. Uxer.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Sanchez. Yes, we can hear you,
Aye.
sir. Thank you. Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Nahara.
Aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 2.0, administration, none. Item 3.0, personnel. Item 3.1, discussion and action to approve full-time staff and faculty recruited in positions funded by the institutional budget.
Make a motion to take no action on this item until after the pandemic is over with, and we will bring this back at that time. That is my motion.
This is
Second.
Bonnie Nájera, second.
Any discussion?
Yeah,
Yes.
Chair Haggerty, this is John Uxer. I have one question. If we take no action, what do we do with those appointments that, interim appointments that, say, terminate this month? And we'd like to have those administrators on duty continuing past this time. How do we handle that?
Chair Haggerty and members of the board, this is William. What we would do, Mr. Upshur, is we would continue that position in an interim capacity. We would extend the timeline of that. I know that one of them expires. We would extend that timeline, sir.
Okay, do we need to have approved the extension?
No, sir, you do not.
And we have a date undetermined as to when we will actually bring this up again, is that correct?
Yeah, 'cause what it looks like right now, this is Chair Haggerty, what it looks like right now, with the governor and everyone else is May 17th. That date may move, at that time, once this is, declared over, we'll put it on the board agenda and we'll take care of it at that time.
Dr. Estrada, I take
Yes,
this
sir.
to mean that we're protecting all the faculty, administrators, and staff in their current positions as we project their needs for them going forward. Is that correct?
Repeat the question, John?
Okay, if I take that, that means that for all of those positions, faculty, staff, administrators that we are in need of now, and we project to be need beyond this meeting through some undetermined date, this protects all those people that we would have extended some other action today.
That is correct, Mr. Upshur, you're correct. So these particular positions, they're not official until the board approves them. So these offers and our Human Resource Department, Dr. Peña and his team understand that, and no formal offers are approved until the board takes action. And so these will continue to be pending. The other positions that are currently employed by the institution will have contracts that run through August. And so all of those will be adhered to. When the pandemic stay-home order is lifted, then we will see where we are budget-wise and fiscally, and then bring back a recommendation to the board at that time.
I guess this is John again. I guess the bottom line is that I just want to make sure that the people that are working, somebody doesn't inadvertently fall through the crack by an oversight of a particular contract expiration, non-extension, whatever you want to call it. I want to make sure that nobody falls through the crack.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay.
Hi,
Other
this is
discussion?
Christina. Yeah, this is Christina Sanchez. So what is, you're asking, I guess, for this to be deleted and then brought back to the board, I guess, once orders have been lifted for a reevaluation, or are we looking at this before the college's budget has been approved, or what's our timeline here in terms of a reevaluation for this particular item?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Sanchez. What we are looking at doing is we will reevaluate based on the budget. The staff will meet and we will look at that. Once the pandemic is lifted, then we'll look at where we are with regards to the stay-home order rather is lifted. We will look at where we are budget-wise and fiscally projecting, not just through the end of this year, but going into the next fiscal year to determine if we bring this back to the board and whether the budget can handle it. If the budget can handle it and we feel comfortable with the recommendation, we will bring it back to the board for consideration. Understanding that some of these individuals may take jobs in other locations. We understand that.
Okay, thank you. And I think that what's important to be mindful of here, though, as well, Dr. Serrata and members of the board, is I don't think it's necessarily contingent on any order being lifted either by the governor, the city, or the county. I think it, quite frankly, is a review, if you will, of where the college is financially in its budget, because I think that those projections are probably, if I'm not mistaken, will probably be coming in pretty soon in terms of whatever revenues the college had expected, in terms of whatever enrollments the college had expected. We will get those numbers probably pretty soon, and we can make those projections. So I'm not sure if, tying it to a particular order, the best route to go. versus really trying to go by whatever financial, calculator or calendar that the college goes through to make those assessments. And I'm not sure, um, just generally speaking, when the college does that or when those evaluations come into play. I know we have to approve a budget at a certain period of time or at a certain point. So I would anticipate us having some sort of in-depth financial review of what that looks like, hopefully with next month or the coming months. I mean, at least that's my ask is to provide us with a financial overview or an assessment of where we are right now with the current situation as a result of COVID-19. I would rely on, I guess, Dr. Serrata and Ms. Shaughnessy to provide that guidance in terms of when they can give the board that adequate overview of what that current financial assessment is for now. So maybe not necessarily for the next budget cycle, but at least where we are for the remainder of the year. And quite frankly, I think that also gives the ability to allow these employees that are subject to us postponing or deleting this item until that time, the information or the assurance or not the assurance of where they are with these particular jobs. I think it's only fair to give them that information as soon as possible. But I'd like to tie it in, quite frankly, to the financial projection that the college would provide.
Yes, ma'am. What we will do, we already are working on scenarios, Ms. Shaughnessy, Mr. Flores, at my request and also at Mr. Uxer's request, to do some financial scenario planning. This year's budget is set, so through August, the budget is set. We will have an impact if summer enrollment remains down as much as it is. We believe that we can deal with that shortfall in revenue for this fiscal year. If the fall semester has a similar impact, that will be something that we will continue to work on the financial scenario planning and bring those to the board during a budget workshop. The board traditionally does not approve the budget until August for the next fiscal year. Given tax revenue isn't confirmed until August, as you know, Ms. Sanchez, with the county. So we wait until we know all of those areas before we bring the final budget to the board. In the interim, we know that the budget will be impacted. I think you're absolutely correct, as Judge Haggerty and Dr. Graham and the rest of the board members have noted as well. So we will go into the budget and be very, very frugal and tighten, have a very tight budget and propose a very tight budget. We will continue to monitor the situation and we will continue to do the financial scenario planning and we will keep the board informed. I would anticipate the first update on that will come in the May board meeting where we will be able to give the board the first glimpse of what we believe based on the trend analysis of what we're looking at on the impact of the budget. Again, all three revenue streams will be impacted at the institution.
Thank you, Dr. Serrata. And all I would add is that, if necessary, don't wait for a month. Again, this is just for me, but you don't have to wait for a monthly board meeting if it necessitates another special meeting or a couple of special meetings so that we could really fully understand and consider what these issues are. I think that may be worthwhile and maybe something that we as a board need to anticipate and make ourselves available for. Again, just given the situation that we are in and just, quite frankly, again, to give that information to whoever may be impacted by them, by this decision or whatever decisions need to be made as soon as possible and to be as transparent as much as possible. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion?
This is Carmen Graham. I just wanted to echo what Ms. Sanchez stated at the end there, that if you gain some new knowledge or some understanding or more clarity on the fiscal area or financial, that we should not wait for another board meeting, regular board meeting, but we should be able to come to a meeting sooner so that we can enable you to proceed with anything that is needed or available once you've got more knowledge on the financial situation. I think that's a very good idea, even if we end up having more meetings, just to move everything forward.
Yes, ma'am. Any other discussion? Hold on.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
And just to be clear, what's the motion?
The motion is that there's no action be taken on 3.1 until after the pandemic is over.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Nájera,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, actually, that should be Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Haggerty.
You don't let me vote twice?
No, sir. Item 3.3, information items, resignations and retirement, no action is required. Item 4.0, financial services, there are none. Item 5.1, discussion and action on the approval to award a contract to Rabbit plus Dado Incorporated for the Instructional Service Center ISD and Faculty Office remodel project at the Valle Verde campus in an amount not to exceed $497,648.
This is Carmen Graham. Dr. Serrata, I noticed that on 5.1 and 5.2 and 6.1, that's pretty close to $1 million if you put them all together. Is that something that we have to do right now when we're in the middle of this uncertainty on the financial side? Or are we okay, we table that for the near future?
Dr. Graham, thank you for the question. I had checked with staff and with our team on one of our cabinet calls. We believe that those three items that you referenced, 5.1, 5.2, and 6.1, and I know Ms. Payne will read them shortly, we believe that we can delay those, that now is not the right time to move forward with a little over $900,000 of expenditures. We believe that we can wait on those, Dr. Graham. So we concur that we should hold off on these particular items.
With that, Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we table 5.1, 5.2, and 6.1.
This is Bonnie Nájera, and I second.
Can you read 5.2 and 6.1?
Yes, sir. Item 5.2, discussion and action on the approval to award a contract to Delmar Contracting for the replacement of the existing pavement on the Fortress Drive at the Valle Verde campus in an amount not to exceed $297,715. And item 6.1, discussion and action to approve the purchase of a SEM Capture Pro with accessories from Laerdal Medical Corporation, CO Beeline Medical, and an amount not to exceed $116,229. There's been a motion and a second to table.
Hi, this is Christina Sanchez. Can you all hear me? My mute is going really confused. Rather than table it, can we make the motion to delete that? Then we'll bring it back, I think, when it's needed. And then just to add to that discussion, I appreciate the fact that there's been review in terms of whether or not this is necessitated. I'd also ask, I guess, moving forward that, if, and I don't know how we do this, quite frankly, and maybe, I don't know, but if there are similar type of contracts or requests that would be put on the agenda for the board to consider that can be delayed or put off at least, I'm just going to be honest here, for the remainder of the fiscal year, I think that we do that. This is going, again, just based on where we are financially and where we're going, we need to be prepared to really reevaluate where some of these expenditures are going, even though they have been budgeted for this fiscal year. I guess that would fall on Dr. Serrata and maybe on your administration and staff to make those evaluations of what could be postponed or not brought forth for the remainder of the year, until we get a better grasp on what that financial outlook is like. Those are my comments. But I think the appropriate motion would be to delete them at this time. 5.1, 5.2, and then the 6.1 one.
We have a motion on the table. This is Carmen Graham that, and mine was to table it because if we were to get additional funding that could allow for example, for 6.1 to move forward, we would, just be able to bring it up. Why are we deleting them? I guess I'm not sure as to what the difference would be in table and deleting them. And then we need to deal with a motion that I made because if you're going to go in a different direction, then we need to deal with a motion that's on the table.
I'll clarify, because when I hear a motion to table, that means that we're not going to, because we use that when we're tabling to take up discussion on items that we have posted for executive session. And so when I hear motion to table, I hear that we're not going to take that up, that we will take it up until the end of the meeting. That's what that means to me. But when I'm talking about a motion to delete, it's not to completely get rid of it. We'll never see it again, but the way I understand that is that it can be brought back at a future time. We're not getting rid of it, but for further consideration by the board, for example, if there is future funding available. So it doesn't completely put it off the table if other funding gets available. It just, from the way I understand, at least it would make the record clear that we're not planning to take that up later. But with that said, I will defer to our legal counsel to provide further guidance in terms of what we need to do appropriately for the record.
Chair Haggerty.
There you go. All right, go ahead.
Hi, this is Francisco Ortega, legal counsel. As I understand it, I think we have the same intent by both trustees. As I have understood both Dr. Graham and Ms. Sanchez, the intent of the board, at least as it's been discussed, is to have both 5.1, 5.2, and 6.1 to be, at least at this point, removed and not be brought up unless it's something that Dr. Serrata and the administration recommend at some point to be brought up back again. So my recommendation would be that the motion would be to delete items 5.1, 5.2, and 6.1.
No, I want to go ahead and let Ms. Sanchez make a motion.
Well, we have a motion and a second.
Right, that's why I said that you have to deal with a motion that's on the table and then she can make her motion.
I understand. So we have a motion to table. Any other discussion? Call the members. Yeah.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
No.
Mrs. Robles,
No.
Ms. Nahara,
No.
Ms. Pena,
No.
Dr. Graham,
No,
Mr. Haggerty.
No.
Okay.
no, you cannot.
So now is there another motion?
Do we have another motion to take no action on 5.1, 5.2, and 6.1?
Hi, this is Christina Sanchez. I make a motion to delete 5.1, 5.2, and 6.1 with the understanding that it would be brought back for the board's consideration if financial circumstances change or additional funding be made available to the college, or upon further evaluation by college administration and staff to make the recommendation to the board. That's my motion.
We have a second?
Second.
This is Bonnie Nájera, and I second.
Any discussion? Okay, good. Pull the board.
Mr. Uxer.
Aye, again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Nahara,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Item 5.3, discussion and action to increase the board-approved expenditure limit from $100,000 to $150,000 for contracts with CDM Plumbing doing business as Roto-Rooter.
This is Carmen Graham, make a motion to approve.
Bonnie.
This
We
is
have
Bonnie
second.
Nahara, second.
Any discussion? Full board.
Mr. Uchter?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez? Ms. Sanchez? Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Ms. Nahara?
Aye.
Ms. Pena?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
And Ms. Sanchez? Ms. Sanchez, can you hear us?
She is on mute. She's having problems with her.
I'm sorry. Yes,
That's
aye.
okay, we can hear you now. Ms.
Yes,
Sanchez, do
aye,
you,
aye.
how do you vote?
Yes. What? Which one?
Thank you.
5.5? What are we talking about? I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
I can't figure this out.
Item 6.2, discussion and action on the approval to accept an annual grant award from the Texas Mutual Insurance Company in the amount of $100,000.
This is Carmen Graham, move to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
This is Bonnie
Christina.
Nahara, second.
Any discussion? Board members, please.
Mr. Uchter?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez?
Can you?
Yes, we heard you, Ms. Sanchez, thank you.
All right.
Robles? Mrs. Robles? Mrs. Robles? Ms. Nahara?
Aye.
Ms. Pena? Ms. Pena?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Go back, Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Item 6.3, discussion and action on the approval of the Fabens High School PTAC interlocal agreement.
This is Dr. Graham. Congratulations, Dr. Serrata, on getting 6.3 and 6.4 to happen. I think it's wonderful, and I make a motion that we approve both 6.3 and 6.4.
This is Bonnie Nahara, and I second.
Item 6.4, discussion and action on the approval of the J.M. Hanks Early College High School interlocal agreement.
Any discussion?
I have a couple of questions. This is Christina Sanchez. With the COVID-19 situation going on, does this somehow affect anything or any of the terms of that agreement or when this will roll out for both of these campuses?
I'll begin.
Ms. Sanchez.
Please go right ahead, Mr. Smith. I was going to call him.
Yeah, I was just trying to unmute myself here. Ms. Sanchez, we don't anticipate it's going to affect it in any way. The meetings between the various committees that are working to establish the schools continue in a virtual fashion. I think the only thing that would really kind of stand in the way of us bringing these online is if there were some extension of the stay-home orders through the summer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that feedback.
Any other discussion? All the members, please.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles, Mrs. Robles, Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Nájera,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 6.5, discussion and action on the approval of the Tornillo Early College High School interlocal agreement.
This is Carmen Graham, move to approve. Congratulations on that one.
This is
too.
Bonnie Nájera, and I second.
Any discussions? Full board.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Nájera,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 7.1, discussion and action to approve the continuing education tuition rate for new courses.
I have questions on that. The amount that stated or quoted is extremely high. How many people are we training for that amount of money?
Dr. Graham, this is Steve Smith. That particular course, I assume you're looking at the $18,000 or $1,800 course rather. That's part of our Skills Development Fund grant. I don't have the exact number of trainees for that course, but that's why it's so expensive. There's a lot of specialized equipment related to the training for that course.
And I guess my concern is just that that's wonderful that we're going to provide that kind of training, but I do want to know how many people we're training for $1,800 so that the figure doesn't scare others from coming forward to request that training now that, that we're able to deliver that robotics training.
I'll tell you, Dr. Graham, that $1,800 figure is a per student figure. But I can find out how many students that we're training. That course isn't designed for open enrollment for the community to sign up. It's part of a specialized skills development fund contract.
So does that mean that like a company can come in? Can you explain a little bit of what that entails? I guess maybe I'm not clear on it.
So I don't know the exact contents of the course itself, but we were approached to do a skills development fund that included robotics training for local companies. It's part of the manufacturing. Yeah, it's the manufacturing consortium that was put together. And so as part of that, there's a course in the inventory that we're putting in, TEC 167. And because it's part of that inventory, that's why it's listed here. Typically, we wouldn't see a bunch of those courses listed under here. If you look down, there's also a relatively expensive crane rigger course as well.
Right.
That's the same kind of thing.
So this is more robotics for the manufacturing arena.
That's correct.
And it was requested by a company?
Yes, it's part of the Skills Development Fund contract that we put in for the manufacturing consortium.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Full board, please.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Well, I don't think a motion was made. that was
There
just
was, I don't
asking.
think there was a motion or a second.
There was no motion made, Judge. I just requested information on it before a motion was made.
So do we have a motion?
Motion made?
Do I have
Second.
a second?
This is Bonnie Nájera, second.
Any other discussion? Call the board.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez, Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Did I?
Aye.
Ms. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Nájera,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Item 7.2, discussion and action to approve the continuing education tuition rates for revised courses.
We have a motion.
Move to approve.
This
Carmen
this is
Bryan.
This is Bonnie Nájera, second.
Any discussion? Call the board, please.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Ms. Nájera,
Aye.
Pena, Ms. Pena, Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. You want to do executive session? Yeah. We're good.
Okay, the board will now go into an executive session. The board of trustees may conduct an executive or closed session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for one or more of the following reasons: consultation with its attorney to seek or receive legal advice or consultation regarding pending or contemplated litigation or for any purpose authorized by law, discussion about the value or transfer of real property, discussion about a prospective gift or donation, consideration of specific personnel matters, discussion about security, personnel or devices, or discussion of certain economic development matters. The board may also announce that it will go into executive session on any item listed on this agenda if the subject matter is permitted for a closed session by provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Any vote regarding these items shall be taken in open session. The time is 6:55 p.m. The board will now go into executive session.
All right, we're back into regular session.
Gotta make sure that they can.
We gotta wait 5 seconds so they can get the recorder on.
Are they ready? Okay, it's on.
Okay, recorder's back on. We want to welcome everyone back to our open session. Pam, we need to go to 1.9.1.
Item 1.9.1, discussion and take possible action regarding the case entitled Martha Quinones versus El Paso County Community College and Hector in the 448th Judicial District Court of El Paso County, Texas, cause number 2018 DCV 17.
No action.
Is that Ms. Sanchez?
That's Ms. Sanchez, correct? Ms. Sanchez, is that your motion, is to take no action?
It's no action, yes. I don't think we take a,
You have to have a second, we have to vote on no action.
I don't think we need a motion.
Did you make a motion to take no action?
I don't think that's a motion. I think you just take no action.
Oh, okay, I believe we voted on the other one, but that's fine, that's fine. Okay, 1.9.2.
Item 1.9.2, discussion and take possible action regarding the internal affairs investigation and/or suspension of Officer Brandon LaPointe, EPCC Police Department.
Hi, this is Christina Sanchez. I make a motion to extend administrative leave with pay for Officer Brandon LaPointe from EPCC, the police department. That's my motion.
This is Bonnie Nájera, and I second.
Any discussion? Full board, please.
Mr. Uster.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Ms. Nájera.
Aye.
Ms. Pena.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. Okay, I think that covers the whole agenda.
I have just one reminder, Judge.
Okay.
Just want to remind everybody that April 17th is Appreciation Day for our military students, and it's Purple Up Day. So if you could either play something on social media or dress in purple or send a little message on media, that would be wonderful.
We can do that, Dr. Graham.
Very well.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't sure who that was.
All right, and that, for everyone's information, our next board meeting will be on May 27th at 5:30. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So May, this is Carmen Brent.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, board members. Very much.
All stay safe.
Thank you all.
And Dr. Serrata,
Yes, sir.
this is John. I just happened to notice that on the calendar, we have employee appreciation dinners. Are those sort of in abeyance now? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, but just to be sure.
Yeah, the answer is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, what we
It
do,
is currently postponed.
just schedule them for sometime whenever we can get the okay?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Rescheduled.
All right, you all stay safe.
Thank you. Stay healthy, everyone.
Right.